So recently, some UFC fights have been announced, and I thought I'd make a video reacting to all of them at once because I don't feel like they're big enough fights for me to make individual videos about. I'm going to be discussing what I think about the fight, my early prediction and breakdown for the fights as well. 4 fights in particular are the ones that interest me. Marlon Moraes versus Dvalishvili, Curtis Blaydes versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Vicente Luque versus Michael Chiesa, which might be the most interesting one out of all of them, and then also a confusing one at the end of Askarov versus Perez, which I truly just don't understand whatsoever. I think I'm going to start this video by discussing Vicente Luque versus Michael Chiesa, number 5 and number 6 inside the welterweight division. Great fight to make. I thought this fight should have been made ages ago. I was waiting for this one. I know Vicente Luque was waiting to fill in if anyone fell out of Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards, so it was no surprise that he signed a fight immediately after that fight was over, so he knew there was no chance he could step in. Now he signed a fight with Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa, of course, has not been too active recently. He never usually is, but he had a good performance against Neil Magny at the start of this year. Now he's going to be coming back again. It's a great scrap, in all honesty. I really do enjoy it. 2 top contenders on win streaks. August 7th, UFC 265. That's the Brazilian-themed card. Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena. Jose Aldo versus Pedro Munoz are also on that card, so they're going to add a little bit of Vicente Luque on there as well. I hope the main event will be Ngannou versus Derek Lewis, because they can't have Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena as a main event. That's fucking final. Other than that, though, let's talk about Michael Chiesa versus Vicente Luque. Great scrap, man. Really looking forward to this one. I do believe, and I kind of thought this as soon as I saw it announced, Vicente Luque's going to murder him, in my opinion. I just think Vicente Luque's got good grappling. It's one of the things that he's improved recently as well. Doesn't seem to be able to be held down. Earlier in his career, some guys would get some takedowns on him. Nowadays, people just can't really seem to do anything in the grappling department. But then again, he hasn't really fought any top-tier grapplers, so this will be a really good test for him against Michael Chiesa, because when you're looking at a division with Kamaru Usman at the top, it's very good to see someone go up against a strong grappling-based style before we start marketing them as the next contender to beat Kamaru Usman, because you kind of have to see them go through that first. Otherwise, the whole narrative leading into an Usman fight is going to be, well, how's Luque's takedown defense? It's time to find out against Michael Chiesa in a 3-round bout. I think that favors Michael Chiesa because he does slow down in fights, and also as little time as he can possibly get in a cage with Vicente Luque, the better, because every single time a round starts, there's about a minute of time. If he can get Luque down, there's still going to be around a minute of time where Luque is going to have a very solid chance of taking his head off with a vicious hook. I feel like Luque's going to win this one against Michael Chiesa. I like the fight, though, and the winner of this one's going to be in a really good position. But one thing I would say, if Luque does win, please, oh please, do not rush into a title shot. Do not go the route of other contenders like we just saw with Marvin Vettori against Israel Adesanya. Vettori arguably shouldn't have been ranked number 3. He beat Kevin Holland, then he got a title shot. I think Vicente Luque should stall out Kamaru Usman. If I was on Vicente Luque's team and I was managing him, I'd be saying, look, dude, you're 29 years of age. You've got a long time to be 29 as well. Let's get this fight out the way, and then we'll have some other fights in the future. Maybe 1 or 2 before we get to the title shot. And Usman by then will be 35 years of age, 34 years of age. So if I'm Vicente Luque, I'm taking things a little bit slow. He's taken on Michael Chiesa. I would love for it to have been a main event so we could see him go 5 rounds. That's something we haven't really seen Vicente Luque do, even though he has got good cardio. It'd be good to see him cover the 5 rounds before he goes in there for some championship level bouts. Vicente Luque, I think, is going to win. Chiesa's got a really good chance, and I actually think he's quite underrated because his fighting style just looks atrociously terrible, but it's effective and he wins fights, and he beat RDA and Neil Magny, and Jeff Neal couldn't beat Neil Magny, so Michael Chiesa is a legit contender in this welterweight division. I just think he's blind on the feet. He has no idea what he's doing with his hands, and if he can't get this to the ground immediately every single round, he will be chinned and KO'd by Luque, and I actually think Luque right now is the best bet at beating Kamaru Usman in that entire division. I think Wonderboy will just get held against the cage and foot stomp the entire time, because I know Usman's been taking on some grapplers, so we've seen a little bit more of his striking recently, and against Jorge Masvidal as well, who was a striker, but I still believe against Wonderboy, Usman's not going to risk trying to land big overhand rights on him. I think he'll just push him up against the cage. Also against Colby Covington, I don't see Covington beating Usman anytime soon. I think the one good chance chance is Vicente Luque. He's got power, he's big, good grappling. We'll see about his takedown defense in this one, and he has that one-punch KO power that can change things in a fight, and we'll see how it goes. Plus, he used to train with Usman as well at Sanford MMA. Let's move on to another fight that's been announced recently. Curtis Blaydes versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Not the fight I would have made, in all honesty, but it's a great scrap, added to UFC 266 in September. I think it should open up the main card. Good scrap, don't get me wrong. Curtis Blaydes, Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I will be going with Curtis Blaydes, but then again, Jairzinho could just somehow have one-punch KO power in this one that he doesn't have in other fights, like against Overeem, but sometimes he has that one-punch power, so it's really a weird one with Jairzinho Rozenstruik. It's kind of like betting on Derek Lewis. He should lose, but who knows? Because he has that one shot that can change things, and we saw that with Derek Lewis against Curtis Blaydes in Curtis Blaydes' last fight. He's taken some time off. Now he's looking to get back in there against a dangerous contender. I think he will just double-leg Rozenstruik and get him down and batter him if Overeem can figure out a way to do it. Like, Blaydes figured out a way to do what Overeem did to Rozenstruik against Overeem. So I think that he'll be able to do it against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. We'll see how much Rozenstruik's improved his grappling. Maybe he could be a threat in this division if he can stuff a couple of takedowns of Curtis Blaydes. I wouldn't have made this fight, though, in my opinion. I know they're looking for a new contender in Rozenstruik to the title, but no one really wants to see an Ngannou Rozenstruik too. So who are we really pushing here to get towards the belt? I think what they should have done is made Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Marcin Tybura, headliner of a main event of a fight night with a great card underneath it to make up for the bad headliner. Make that fight, two streaking contenders, build their name a little bit more in the meantime, and then we go in there with Curtis Blaydes against Stipe Miocic. I don't want to see, and this is what this fight has done, I don't want to see Stipe Miocic sit out on the sidelines and wait for a trilogy. Or, like, wait for another title shot, whoever has the belt by the time next year or something like that. I want to see Stipe Miocic go in there against a heavyweight contender, fight them at his new weight, show us that he's still got it, and then go in there against Ngannou. And that would be good for Stipe as well, because he could sort of get used to being at that weight, then go in there against Ngannou, maybe stay a little bit more active now. Who knows, but I wanted him to take on Curtis Blaydes. That's not going to happen. I reckon Curtis Blaydes will beat Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but the winner of this one is just going to be added to a list of fights that, I mean, maybe they can take on the winner of Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov. I assume that's what this fight means, the winners versus the winners, but then again, you've got two opportunities at really boring rematches that no one really cares about, with Curtis Blaydes versus Alexander Volkov, which is a little bit more interesting than the alternative, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Cyril Gane. I guess they're praying that it will be Curtis Blaydes versus Cyril Gane for a fresh matchup. Who knows? I'm going to be going with Curtis Blaydes here. Great scrap though, and 266 is getting better and better by every single day. I'm looking forward to that card, definitely. Moving on to another fight which has been added to UFC 266. Marlon Moraes versus Moraes Dvalishvili. Amazing scrap. Really looking forward to this. Marlon Moraes takes on no easy bouts. I'll tell you this though. I kind of think Moraes is going to beat him. Am I wrong for saying this? We'll get to Askarov versus Perez in a second. I kind of think this is a great matchup for Marlon Moraes. Moraes hasn't really got too much power with his hands, is a little bit sloppy on the feet with his stand-up, cuts a lot of weight, he's a wrestler who out-wrestles Marlon Moraes really, so Hudo eventually got to him as Moraes slowed down, but in that first round, if Moraes can't just dunk Marlon Moraes on his ass and keep him there for the whole round, Moraes going to be on the feet with Marlon Moraes for a solid part of the first round. And that's going to be a big problem, so we'll see what kind of Marlon Moraes comes back. I reckon I might hesitate on my Marlon Moraes pick and sort of go with Moraes Dvalishvili, but like at the same time, Moraes, this is a good matchup. It's not like a big power puncher on the feet or a guy with great stand-up that's going to exploit his chin. This is a good scrap for him. I understand why he took it. He's had a little bit of time off as well, and he's coming back in September now. We'll see how this one goes for him. Great scrap in the division. They're moving Moraes Dvalishvili up the division as well. This is going to put him in the top 10, and I think Moraes is going to be 2 fights away from a title shot if he wins this one. And Moraes, I mean, it's actually a decent matchup in that bantamweight division. I could have thought of way worse matchups for Marlon Moraes in the bantamweight division. I thought they were going to, like, if O'Malley beat Lewis Smolka, they'd just chuck Moraes to Sean O'Malley, hoping that O'Malley chins him in the first round with some good speed. But Moraes not really too much of a stand-up guy, so respect to Moraes, man. Took on a tough challenge. Who knows about his grappling? He's got great grappling, great strength. I do think he'll stuff a couple of takedowns in that first round. And if we see Moraes Dvalishvili go out there and out-grapple someone like Marlon Moraes, who's got great grappling, I think it will show us quite a bit, in all honesty, in terms of what he could do to a Piotr Jan, what he could do to a Corey Sandhagen and Aljamain Sterling, because Moraes, we saw even in the Aljo fight, Aljo tried to get that to the ground, and he was the only one who ended up on the ground, face first, unconscious. So, Merab, if he does out-grapple Moraes, maybe a faded version of Moraes, don't get me wrong, but still it'll be a great sign, and then we can start discussing, okay, can he use this grappling against the top of the division? But other than that, moving on to another fight that's been announced, Zaruk Adashev versus, I'm joking, it's a fucking joke. How is he still in the UFC? He's free and fucking free. Other than that, though, Askarov versus Alex Perez. Why? Seriously, who is managing Askarov? What the fuck are they doing? Brandon Moreno just won the belt against Figueiredo in dominant fashion. They're probably not going to do a trilogy, right? Askarov's right there. He has a draw with Brandon Moreno. Why would they make this fight? It makes no sense. All this does is remove Askarov from being selected for another fight for Brandon Moreno, and it kind of opens the door for a Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno trilogy, and if they're going to complain about it, why? Askarov just signed a fight with Alex Perez, lower ranked, coming off a loss, I believe, in that division as well. What does this do for Askarov, and why would they sign that fight? I guess maybe if Brandon Moreno has an injury that we don't know about and he's going to be kept out till the end of the year and they want to build up Askarov's name a little bit more, but on the off chance that Alex Perez goes out there and beats Askarov, which I don't believe, by the way, I think Askarov will be able to out-grapple him. Either way, if Perez goes out there and calf kicks Askarov like he did Hussier Formiga and finishes him that way in the first round, you're not giving a fucking title shot to Alex Perez. So so we do the Figueiredo trilogy? I'm not really too interested in that. He just got dominated. So, like, I don't understand the move here. I guess they're trying to build Askarov's name one more and put a lot of attention on him for this fight and pray that he wins and then do the Brandon Moreno match. But we could have had Moreno versus Askarov in October, in November, and now it feels like they've just gone out of their way to ruin the chances of that ever fucking happening. Why? And if Perez wins, there's no way he's earned a title shot. So I think they're now going to look at, if Askarov loses, a Figueiredo trilogy, which I'm actually not too interested in because it seemed like Figueiredo might be done with his career, in all honesty. Other than that, good fight's been announced. Zaruk Adashev versus Juan Camilo Ronderos. Interesting. Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Danilo Marquez. Great job, Kennedy Nzechukwu. We needed some fights on the June 26th card. I'm very glad that he stepped in all honesty, because we needed help. Ed Herman was out of that fight. Nzechukwu steps in. The Queen's Guard himself is on job. I like Kennedy Nzechukwu, and it's a great scrap. I reckon he could beat Danilo Marquez, but it all depends on his takedown defense, which I guess I'll check back on the Paul Craig fight before I come up with my opinion on it. And Tisha Torres versus Angela Hill, 265. Couple of great scraps been announced. Just the most confusing of them all is Alex Perez versus Askarov. I don't understand it. And the most interesting is obviously Michael Chiesa versus Vicente Luque, which I think is a great scrap. And I think if the winner of that one wins, which they will because they'll be the winner of that one. Other than that, the winner of that one can look for maybe the winner of Burns versus Wonderboy if it's Burns. Then again, if it's Luque and Burns, they're friends. Oh, it's all just a fucking shit show. Stop being friends with each other, you fucking soy boys. So fucking annoying. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip.